Digital technology has transformed the way we live, learn, and connect. But behind every click lies an invisible environmental cost.
We spend so much of our lives in a world that feels, well, invisible. It feels weightless and clean. But what if I told you that every single click, every stream, and every search you make has a hidden, very real physical cost? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the surprising environmental price of our digital world.
I mean, we all say it right, the cloud. It just sounds so ethereal, like it's floating harmlessly above us. But is that what's really going on? Where does all of your data, I'm talking your photos, your emails, your entire digital life, where does it actually live?
Well, here's the thing. The cloud is basically just really, really good marketing. The reality isn't some wispy puff of vapor. No, it's a massive global network of underwater cables, humming servers, and enormous data centers, some the size of factories, all chugging energy 24/7. It's industrial, it's physical, and, as we're about to see, it's incredibly thirsty.
And just to put that into perspective for you, if the entire internet were its own country, it would be the sixth largest electricity user on the whole planet. I mean, just think about that for a second. Our collective online activity uses more power than almost any single nation just to keep the digital lights on.
So, all of that electricity use has a direct and massive consequence, which brings us to our first big topic, the internet's carbon footprint. And let me tell you, it is almost certainly bigger than you think. Okay, get ready for this number. 3.7%. That's the slice of all global greenhouse gas emissions that comes from just making and running our devices, our data centers, and our networks. Now, it might not sound like a huge number at first, but on a planetary scale, that is just staggering. And if you're still thinking, well, 3.7% doesn't sound like that much, let me give you some context. For years, we've all talked about the carbon footprint of flying, right? Well, the total carbon footprint of our digital technologies has now actually blown past the entire global aviation industry. Turns out that Netflix binge might have a bigger impact than you think.
But it's not just about carbon emissions, not even close. There's another hidden resource our digital world is just guzzling down: water. It's a huge issue, and it's deeply connected to our online habits, but it's happening almost completely behind the scenes.
So why so much water? Well, all those millions of servers in data centers run by companies like Google, Meta, and Microsoft, they generate an incredible amount of heat. And to stop them from, literally melting, they need constant cooling. And that cooling is often done with water, billions and billions of gallons of fresh water, often pulled right from the local communities where these centers are built. And this is where it gets really, really personal and kind of wild. Think about this the next time you're chatting with an AI. A single conversation, we're talking just 20 to 50 questions, drinks an entire 500 milliliter bottle of water. All of that is just to cool the servers that are processing your requests. It's insane. Okay, so we've talked about energy and water, but what about the actual things? Our phones, our laptops? We're always being pushed to get the next new thing. But what happens to the old ones? Well, that brings us to the e-waste graveyard. And the speed of this problem, it's just alarming. This mountain of our discarded electronics isn't just growing, it's exploding at a rate 3 times faster than the growth of the human population. We are creating waste at a pace that our planet simply cannot handle. So where does it all actually go? Honestly, the numbers here paint a pretty bleak picture. Even with our best intentions, only about 20% of our e-waste is properly collected and recycled. So what about the other 80%? Well, that's a massive environmental problem, ending up in landfills or being handled in really unsafe conditions. And we have to talk about what that 80% actually means. These devices are packed with heavy metals, things like lead and mercury. When they're just sitting in landfills, these toxins can seep into our soil and our groundwater. And what's worse, a lot of this waste gets shipped off to developing nations, where people, often working without any protection, are exposed to these deadly substances just trying to salvage a few valuable materials. Okay, so that's a lot. And it sounds pretty grim, right? But it's not all doom and gloom. It's not hopeless. This brings us to the most important question. What can we actually do about it? The answer might be in shifting our mindset towards something called digital minimalism. It really boils down to a few simple but super powerful ideas. First, just keep your devices longer. Resist that constant pressure to upgrade. Second, a little digital hygiene goes a long way. Go ahead and delete old files and emails you don't need from the cloud. Third, let's bring back a repair culture. Fix things when they break instead of just replacing them. And finally, consume your media mindfully. Ask yourself, do you really need to stream everything in 4K, especially on a tiny phone screen?
And if you need proof that this stuff works, just look at that first step. By simply using your smartphone for 4 years instead of the typical 2, you can slash its lifetime carbon footprint by 40%. That is a massive impact from one single, simple choice.
So when you boil it all down, here's what we're left with. We have built this incredible digital world, but it is not virtual. It has a real, physical cost in carbon, in water, and in waste. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what is that progress worth? Are we willing to actually acknowledge the true cost and maybe, just maybe, change our habits